This video is for parents of students in Year 10 receiving the report in January. The purpose of this video is to explain to you the significant current changes in GCSE and how that's affecting our target setting. We want to explain the process at GCSE, and we also want to show you a report so that you can interpret it and discuss it effectively with your son or daughter. And obviously this will give you the opportunity to seek further clarification if you need it on any aspects of the report. What's changed in GCSE has been significant and will continue to be so over the next couple of years. The majority of GCSEs have changed in content and also how they'll be assessed. In terms of the report, the new grading system is particularly significant. You may well be used to our legacy system where we had grades at A star to G. They're currently being replaced over a period of time with new grades at 9 to 1. So students who would have got an A or an A star historically will now be awarded a grade 7 to 9. C and B grades are awarded grades 4 to 6. For students in Year 10, they will be getting a mixture of grades depending on the subjects that they take. There are a number of subjects which still have the legacy grading system: business studies, the DT subjects graphics, product design and textiles, and health and social care. Other subjects, iMedia, ECDL and retail business, are still awarded distinction, merit and pass grades as they have been in the past. While those are on the legacy system, that doesn't mean to say they're of less value. They have equal value with all GCSEs. So there is significant change, and for students in Year 10, they will be getting grades at the end of Year 11, which are either numeric or lettered, or distinction merit pass if they choose those courses. While there is lots of change, what we want to point out is that the principles of good assessment haven't changed at all, and that underpins our target setting system. The assessment principles are straightforward. We start by asking, what was the student's starting point joining Bishop Stopford School? We look at the progress the student has made over Key Stage 3, and then we put those two pieces of information together to determine the likely GCSE outcomes for those students. We don't just make this up, we use national data sets to help us to arrive at that conclusion, and those have been developed and refined over a significant number of years, and we're happy to use those as reliable data. We then ask ourselves, how is the student performing right now? And finally, the vital question, what do they need to do next to progress? So our targets are derived from looking at the student's starting point and using the national data to determine what the most likely outcomes at GCSE are. What we want to do now is to look through a report and to see how those targets are reported to you and progress against them. This report will look very familiar. It's very similar to the report your son or daughter will have had in Year 7, 8 and 9. On the left-hand side, we have the subjects, the subject teacher, and the set that your son or daughter is in. We then have the 4 columns of data. 3 of those columns, the 2 effort columns and the projected grade column, are about current performance, and of course the target grade is for the end of the course. For us, the first 2 columns, class effort and homework effort, are equally important in Key Stage 4 as they were in Key Stage 3. The scale is the same, so 1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest. And critically, they will link to the projected grade column on the far right. So for example, our student here in history has been given 2s for effort. The teacher is making a judgment that at the moment the student isn't putting in enough effort in class or in homework. And you'll notice that on the far side, the projection is lower than the target grade. And so there's a link there between those columns. The third column is the target grade. This is the target that's set by the teacher, but informed by the national data as we've just described. There is challenge built in there as well. So while this is a challenging target, it is achievable and should be stretching students to achieve their very best. The target is set for the 2 years, so this will be the target for the whole of GCSE. You will notice in the report that some targets are labelled as upper and some as lower. What the teacher is saying there is that the student is aiming, for example in this case in English, for a level 7 grade at the end of the course, but it's a strong level 7, nearer to an 8 than to a 6. Conversely, a lower grade would suggest it's the bottom end of a 7, nearer to a 6 than it is to an 8. So you'll see upper and lower being used throughout the report. The projected grade reflects the judgment the teacher is making about the student's progress right now. If the student continues to work as they are, this is the grade the teacher thinks they will get at the end of the course. The teacher will have taken account of their assessments of student work, classwork, homework, and will have taken all of that into account to make that judgment on the projected grade. Again, there's a link there with the first 2 columns. So, for example, the student here is targeted by the English teacher an upper 7. The effort and the reliability is a 5, the highest it can be, and the teacher has said, taking into account all of the students' work and all that they've noticed, they're on target for that upper 7 if they continue as they are. In maths, the student is also targeted an upper 7, and their classwork effort and their homework effort is a 4, it's good effort. And at the moment, the teacher is saying, taking into account everything, it's looking more like a lower 7. So there is some work to do to get to that upper 7, but a 7 is still on track. So those are our numbers, those are the targets, but I do just want to go back to the principles which underpin all that we've said. Firstly, are the targets clear and does everyone understand them? Does the student, most significantly, understand those targets and what they mean? Secondly, how is the student performing right now in relation to those targets? And critically, what do they need to do next to progress? The answer to that last question isn't contained in the report. That is a question that the student can ask of their subject teacher if they're uncertain, and you too can ask if you'd like more clarification. So the GCSE targets will be issued in the report on Friday the 26th of January. If you have any queries about the report, generally Mrs Parnell, Head of Year 10, or the form tutor will be able to help you. For subject-specific requests, contact the subject teacher in the first instance. Thank you.